Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Maoist Third Worldist Collective. This is going to be a very challenging podcast to make for two reasons. First, the podcast has been removed justifiably and thankfully from YouTube. So you can't find it on YouTube. You can find it in other places, but I will not tell you where to find it. It is disgusting. Second, I am not going to be quoting the lyrics from the podcast. One, because I find the lyrics to be extremely vile. And second, more pragmatically, because I think that even quoting from the lyrics might violate at least the spirit of YouTube having removed it from its server. So I have to talk about a video that was made without either referencing it and without quoting from it. A real challenge, but I will do the best I can, especially since, as is my method, I don't use notes. I speak extemporaneously, and so what comes out of my mouth is what you'll get, so to speak. This horrible video was made apparently in an elementary school classroom. It shows children singing, and unfortunately singing quite well. That's one of the sad parts of it. The children are actually doing a good job, whatever a good job might be in this kind of topsy-turvy world that we live in, about killing Palestinians and seizing the lands of Gaza. It is one of the most horrid exhibitions I have ever seen in my life. To me, it shows how indoctrination can work. Now, let me qualify that. As a sociologist, and as in particular a sociologist of religion, I do not accept the legitimacy of Lifton's thought reform hypothesis, sometimes called brainwashing. Brainwashing is literally a translation of the Korean word to wash the brain. It came from the Korean War, when American POWs were being held by North Korea. And the attempt, apparently, at least according to American authorities, was to wash the brains of the American POWs and to make them think in a different way, meaning to make their thinking, I guess, more friendly toward the Juche movement in North Korea, which is the communist movement in North Korea. Now, I am extremely skeptical of anything which comes out of the American government. And that is not because I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm not. But I want to see evidence. When I am shown evidence, then I will accept the evidence. But if somebody simply makes a claim, especially about the American government, I don't accept it. The American government saying something, to me, is insufficient for me to accept its legitimacy. But aside from that, that's really off the topic. The video is such a horrendous video. Personally, I would not recommend that anybody watch it. If you do watch it, I think you should be prepared to watch some such tremendous horrors, possibly worse than you have ever seen in your life. Nobody dies in the video. Nobody is hurt physically in the video. But you see the power of indoctrination. And indoctrination is not brainwashing. Brainwashing, or thought reform, as it was defined by Lifton, is literally the idea where you eliminate a person's prior way of thinking and replace it with an entirely new way of thinking. That has been studied by sociologists of religion, people in my own field. And it's been shown that it is literally impossible to do that. You cannot brainwash somebody. Now, can you indoctrinate them? Sure. Indoctrination is simply a negative term for socialization or social learning. Typically, people use the word indoctrination when they're referring to a kind of socialization that they do not approve of. If they approve of it, they'll call it socialization, or maybe conditioning. If they don't approve of it, they'll call it indoctrination, or perhaps using the discredited term brainwashing. But socialization and indoctrination are synonyms. They both refer to the same process. Conditioning is a term which is more commonly used by behavioral psychologists. For example, psychologists influenced by the work of B.F. Skinner and behaviorists like him, they will use that term. Or psychologists who practice behavior modification might use that term. Or therapists who use applied behavioral analysis, a very controversial, especially controversial in the past, method of treating autism by establishing a model of what is ideal neurotypical behavior and then trying to get children to imitate that. Originally, when children did a poor job of imitation, they would literally receive electric shocks. Now, that electric shocking has allegedly, I don't know, but allegedly that is no longer done. So they use other techniques, but the objective is still to get people to conform to this standard, this prototype of what is supposedly neurotypical, meaning neurologically typical conduct or behavior. When I watched this video and I saw the kind of indoctrination, the kind of socialization that was used by the school on these innocent elementary school children, because you can't call elementary school children anything else but innocent. Their critical thinking faculties are not fully developed. I would not be surprised if most of them really had no idea what they were singing about. Maybe some did. I don't know. I'm not an expert in the developmental process of children, so I really cannot intelligently comment on that. But my assumption is that most of them really didn't fully understand what they were saying. They may have had some idea, but not a complete idea. The adults, on the other hand, are a different story. They certainly understood what they were doing and how they were abusing, emotionally abusing these children for their own imperialistic objectives to make the Palestinians look evil and bad, and to make the Israelis look good. So whenever you see Israeli Defense Force people in the video, they are smiling, they're looking good, they're looking happy, not realizing that these people are simply imperialists and killers. They should not be portrayed by any outlet that pretends to be a source of information as being good people. They are certainly not that. I think that that statement, I would make it without any conditions. Those IDF, Israeli Defense Force people, are simply not good people. I know if I were, thank God I'm not, an Israeli citizen, and I were called up to serve in the army, and I were placed in the Israeli Defense Forces, and my job was to go and destroy Palestine, I would say no. If they said, well, if you say no, we will kill you. And I have no idea what Israel would do. I'm simply making this up. Maybe they would not kill me. Maybe they'd put me in prison. But regardless of what the consequences might be, I would refuse to do it, meaning I would not comply. I would not comply. I would not go along with that kind of a directive. And yet these adults who supervised the production of this video were willing to make this and to include people from the IDF who willingly went into Palestine to do this. Shameful. The only word I can think of for that is absolutely shameful. There is simply no excuse for that kind of behavior coming from a modern, supposedly democratic government. Now, is Israel a democracy? No, it is not a democracy in any sense, even a bourgeois democracy, which the United States is. But Israel is not even that, because Palestinians cannot vote. And step by step, the rights of Palestinians to participate in the political process who are actually Israeli citizens, those rights are being taken away. So Israel is not a democracy. Israel does not have the right to exist. And I say that as a guy of an Ashkenazi Jewish background on all sides of my family. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and one of my great-grandfathers was a rabbi. I would hope that these people are literally trembling in their graves when they see this kind of malicious disregard for human life that is being presented in this video. Now, can I do anything? Not really. The best that I can hope to do in making these podcasts, as I have said to a number of people recently, and even as I said to one friend of mine who was actually an artificial intelligence being named Pi, is that I simply cannot conceive of being placed into a situation like this. Can't conceive of it. Much as I would have refused to fight the Viet Cong in the 1960s, I would refuse to fight the Palestinians in 2023. And yet, I have a friend, maybe a former friend, but we are friends on social media. I won't mention the platform. This friend or former friend of mine is a very staunch Zionist. His entire family is made up of staunch Zionists. And members of his family, even though they are American citizens, are right now in Palestine fighting the Palestinians, presumably killing the Gazans. And for what? For what? For what? I guess the answer is land. Geopolitics. Are these people who are doing this even human? I'm not qualified to judge who is and who is not human. Certainly they are Homo sapiens. To me, being human is more than being a Homo sapien. It is having the quality of humanness, the quality of humanity, of being humane. Are these people humane? No. So I would doubt, from my own definition, and it's just my definition, that these people should be considered to be human beings. Although I realize that's a controversial statement, but I realize that everything I say on this channel is controversial, so that's nothing new. I'm used to it. So I hope you don't watch this video. I'll say that. I've seen it. I actually have a copy of it that I found. I keep it stored in a private location on one of my servers. But I would strongly recommend that none of you try to find this video unless you are a masochist, unless you were literally trying to hurt yourself, to make yourself feel bad. Maybe that can have some positive applications. Maybe it is good to feel bad. So from that perspective, maybe we should all see it. I don't know. My mind is really undecided about this, but it's just so depressing watching that stupid video. Who in the world would make such a thing? Why would they make such a thing? And then after having made it, why would they spread it over social media? I don't understand. But I guess I'm not able to understand. There must be something missing in me, which gives me the inability to understand that kind of disgusting, despicable, insolent, horrendous conduct. Not by the children. Again, I am not blaming the children. I am blaming the adults. But those children who are victims of abuse, my fear is when they get older, they will remember having done this. And it will haunt them in their adulthood. And I don't want that to happen. Because I don't think that they should be held responsible for their actions. And yet, honestly, if I did something like that as a child, I would feel guilty about it. Even now at 67. So been really hard for me to come to terms with this video. Really hard. I've tried. And I must admit that at least so far, I have failed. Almost everyone I know, and honestly, most people I know are like me, communists. Most of those communists are, again, like me, Maoist third worldists. They have seen the video already. I've already asked several people. They have all seen the video. So maybe you've seen it as well, whether you're a Maoist third worldist or not. Maybe you've seen it. And I hope that you will be okay. I hope that you can sleep at night. And if you are a Zionist, I hope that you will reconsider your stance after having watched this kind of really disgusting piece of trash. This has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Maoist Third Worldist Collective. Have a pleasant day, as pleasant as it can be, and an even better day tomorrow.